All right, hello and welcome to Missouri Green Party Candidate Forum. I'm Barbara Chicario and I will be your moderator here today. And we have a few housekeeping rules before we start. Participants will be muted by our moderator. Let's see, I'm sorry. The participants will be muted. Please use the chat window to submit your questions. You do not need to wait to submit a question. You can submit it at any time. Also indicate which candidate or candidates your question is for. Also look in your chat for a link where you can find more information about our candidates. So Don Fitz, Missouri Green Party Chair, will start us off, and then each candidate will introduce themselves and speak for a few minutes. Once all candidates have spoken, then we'll start our questions and answers. And Don is going to speak on why we need to vote green. Okay, Don.
Okay, my name is Don Fitz. I'm the chair of the Missouri Green Party. I think everybody knows that the United States is confronting two great crises today. One is the COVID-19 crisis, and the other is the crisis of racism, as expressed in all the demonstrations against police violence. We need to realize that the Green Party, from the very beginning, has supported Medicare for all, and even fully socialized medicine. These are the sort of steps that we need to confront COVID, and neither the Democrats nor the Republicans have any sort of plan to get America ready to confront COVID-19. People may recognize that Trump is completely silly in all of the things he said, but the Democrats have really not put forward a plan. They talk about contact tracing after the cow is out of the barn. You know, this is not what they were proposing at the very beginning, and we really need a comprehensive medical system with free medical care for all, and that would be the beginning point. The other point is that we find that police violence is not something which occurs now and again. It's something that's systemic and grew out of slavery, and the violence against people of color is what the United States was founded on, and it's what continues through today. We need a political party that challenges the entire political structure from top to bottom, and the Democratic Party is no more challenges that than Donald Trump. The Democratic Party basically is one that goes along with a gentler, kinder form of oppression, but it's founded on oppression. So I encourage everybody to work, not just participate in the elections, but to vote for Green Party candidates and to work with the Green Party to change the basic structure of U.S. society.
Thank you, Don. So our first candidate today is Betsey Mitchell, who's running for St. Louis County Executive.
Hello, can you guys hear me?
Yes.
Hi, my name is Betsey Mitchell, and I'm running for, you can hear me? Hello?
I can hear you.
Okay, all right, my name is Betsey Mitchell, and I'm running for St. Louis County Executive. I've been a resident of St. Louis, Missouri for St. Louis County for 46 years. I'm a retired educator, and a small business owner, and I'm on the front line with the COVID, preparing meals for COVID-19. And so I want to make change. I've seen a lot over the years living in St. Louis County, the disparities, and how we just need an even playing field, and it is not. And so by me running, I'm hoping that I can get in and make some changes.
Okay. Thank you, Betsey.
Thank you, Barb.
Okay. I think everything's okay. It says my internet is unstable, so I hope I'm able to withstand that. Our next candidate that we're going to hear from is Daniel Karam, and Daniel is running for the Missouri State House District 37 that represents South Kansas City and the Grandview areas.
Okay, is this just introductions or is this the 5-minute spiel?
It's your 5 minutes. It's your 5 minutes.
Okay, thank you. All right, my name's Daniel Karam, and I am running for State House of Representatives, 37th District. And I've been an activist since Vietnam times, uh, sort of resentful of the idea of like school preparing people to become parts of corporations, and thought, well, I think there's something called freedom. It's a little better than that. Um, my idea, I wrote out some ideas. Uh, Poor people's candidate. That's what I consider myself. And an equalizer. If I can give some political power, I'm going to use that power to act as an equalizer, because that's what we need. We need to bring about balance, which is, we have such an imbalance of so much into fewer hands, that's causing dis-ease. So we have to bring about better balance, and it's going to take health, healing. I say that need should be the basis of rights, not bank accounts. I want universal health care. What's more important, health care or millions of dollars in bank accounts? I believe in socialism. Capitalism is not democratic, America. Its usefulness is past. It's leading to destruction, and we have to find an alternative. Vote out Wall Street Congress. Adopt campaign finance reform of, by, and for people, not corporate tyranny. We can do better. Fight abuse. Tax billionaires out of existence. Abolish economic slavery. Promote true freedom. Like I say, I've been at this for some time, and I wrote various things. This is one of the recent things I wrote. I call it Truth Matters. Black Lives Matter. Truth matters. Peace matters. Love matters. Justice matters. God matters. Life matters. When did it not? When were lies believed? When did hate dominate? When did fight oppress? When did money force? When did lust kill and rape? When did ignorance murder? When did sickness hurt? When did hunger weaken? When did inequality defeat? When did blindness harden? When was power lost? When were hearts broke? When will we win? When truth is known. That's the answer. Now, if this is going out to the public, that's one thing. But if this is just kind of like for us candidates to talk amongst ourselves, that's another. I'll go on as if this is going out to the public as some kind of a message. This is something that I wrote way back when. It got me started writing on another level. I call it mankind's gains. When materialistic gains become dead ends, look inside and see what mankind has for you. All the scientists and poets of past have struggled valiantly so you can pass. It is on their shoulders that we stand. Our achievements are theirs, as our children's will be ours. It is through mankind's gains that we will find the road, the way, and the work that will not end. These are kind of short. I call this one United Earth. The technology to unite this planet along social and economic lines now exists. With greater ability comes greater power and greater responsibility. present struggles are centered around acquiring greater power. Thus, a large part of the Earth's resources are used to make weapons. This activity causes growing unrest in the world today. World leaders must learn to realize that weapons don't always bring about greater power. Only nonviolence can bring about planetary unity. Without weapons, men will achieve greater abilities. As they unite, they will wrest control of the planet out of the hands of those who create weapons. The law of universal order is within every heart. Turning away from this directive and pursuing personal gain as the basis of one's character constitutes a rebellion against man's true nature. Man is not meant to be an isolated body representing alienated self-interest. We must learn to open our eyes to see that we and others are welcome members of the same family that represents the interests of the united earth. Another one, I call this one big business.
Your
Now,
time
let
is
me
up.
know about the time. How much more time?
0. Your time is up.
Oh, okay. Well,
Right.
more later, folks.
Thank you, Dan. Next, we're going to hear from Vicke Kepling, who is a longtime activist in Springfield, and she's running for Missouri State House District 135.
Hi, everybody. My name is Vicke Kepling. I got my start in activism with my son. He was born prematurely in 1997, and I found out I needed to be his voice. And so I became a voice for him with education and then helped other parents. And so I volunteered in like with IEPs, if anybody's went to those, for about 15 years. And then my awakening came with Occupy Wall Street. We had a meeting here in town, here in Springfield, and I went to the very first meeting, and there was 160 people there. And they were all just like me, and they were just like, we need to do something. So that was my awakening. It really felt like the Matrix, where somebody just put this wire in my head, and it's like, zzz, and I knew, well, I found that I cared about everything. I cared about everything. I came home and I watched on my computer the collateral murder videos, and I just cried for my country for the first time. And basically, so I joke and I tell people that my son gave me my voice and I haven't shut up since. So he gave me my start. Then there was Occupy. Then Bernie Sanders announced he was running for president, and I was all in. I became, I gave him basically a year and a half of my life, and I saw how the Democratic Party was not acting in an ethical way. I'd been a Democrat for 20 years. And anyway, so I knew that that didn't work for me anymore. So I helped get the Green Party on the ballot, helped get signatures. And since that time, I've just kept on. And I knew I wanted to run. 2 years ago, a friend of mine was running, so I didn't run. And so this time I'm all in. I announced over a year ago, and I have been working really hard. I go out every day, and right now I'm lit dropping instead of door knocking. But so far I've been to 7,000 houses. I'm not out and about, and I'm making stuff. I leave refrigerator magnets. I have 2 mottos. I guess I should tell you a little bit about what I stand for. I have 2 mottos. My first one is Planet First. I really believe that we need an environmental voice at the state capitol, someone that will put the environment first. My goal is to work with organizations over the state and come up with different legislation. I want to have 1 or 2 bills that are so simple and so common sense that no one can deny them. And I want to work with everyone. Right now, I see the 2 major parties just really cutting each other down. calling names. I see them acting very unprofessional. And I think that that's a huge problem. I'm not going to do that. I teach at Missouri State University, so I want to go in as an educator. I want to go in with facts and teach people and try to make arguments that make sense to people, and to let them know we all have children, grandchildren, we all have families, and we need to be protecting them. So that's what Planet First means to me. My second thing is when trust matters. And what that means to me is that my vote cannot be bought. I'm not in this for the money. I'm putting in, so far I put $2,500 into my own campaign, and I've raised $2,500. I am in this to win it. I've already got yard signs. I've got everything, and I plan to do maybe some radio. And so I don't know, I'm going to do this one time. I'm running one time, and if I lose, then I'm done. If I win, I'll keep on. But I'm giving it my all. I go out every day. Usually about this morning was over 3 hours, and I'm working really hard. I want to win, and I will do whatever I can. And I'm sure I'll spend time. Anyway, if anybody's interested, I have I made these brochures. I have cats, sorry. And you can find me on Facebook at Vicke Kepling for Mo135 to learn more. And thank you very much.
Thank you, Vicke. Let's see, now we're going to hear from Nathan Kline, who's running for Missouri State Senate District 7, representing Kansas City.
Thank you, Barb, and good afternoon to everyone. My name is Nathan Kline, and I am running this year as the Green Party candidate for the Missouri State Senate District 7. I'm a lifelong resident of Kansas City, Missouri, and a longtime homeowner in the Plaza Westport neighborhood, and a graduate of the Kansas City Art Institute. I am first and foremost a relentless worker and creative problem solver who has developed a strong background in both the public and private sector as a manager and administrator of large organizations. After 25 years of hospitality management experience, I brought my skill set to the public sector in 2013 to work for the City Planning and Development Department of the City of Kansas City, Missouri, where I currently am dedicated to public service. I now offer myself as a public servant to the people of Missouri. I've been a supporter of the Green Party since the 1996 Ralph Nader campaign for president, after finally coming to the realization that the two corporate parties are irredeemably corrupt. My campaign for Jackson County, Missouri executive in 2018 garnered over 34,000 votes as a Green Party candidate. And I currently serve as the outreach officer for the Green Party here in Kansas City. As an avid student of history, political science, economics, philosophy, and the arts, I continually seek to bridge the gap between theory and practice to achieve a sustainable, just, and peaceful society. For me, the Green Party, as the only political party in the US that is not wholly captured by corporations and billionaires, is the only vehicle that can achieve these goals. Now, let's be honest. At this point, the Democratic and Republican parties only represent large campaign contributors, not communities and not voters like us. They are well paid to maintain this corporate status quo that is working so well for the rich, but not for any of us. Neither seriously addresses the multiple growing crises of climate change, entrenched racism, economic inequality, and lack of access to decent health care, education, and housing, and other resources necessary for life. The complete capitalist corporate takeover of the Democratic and Republican parties, and thus our government, has eliminated them as vehicles for the systematic changes that we must implement to successfully tackle these ramifying crises. The governmental capture by corporations and the obscenely wealthy that has been facilitated by the two corporate parties has led to the private sector hoarding resources as we working people have fallen into desperation, unseen for generations. The private sector will only provide the necessities of life to those in need if they can pay market rates, and the percentage of the population that can pay those rates is shrinking every year as the rich have successfully hoarded a higher percentage of our national wealth due to their complete capture of our government's regulatory and financial resources. Those financial resources are our taxes. This situation has led to a revolutionary historical moment. The established status quo will not hold, so we find ourselves now at a crossroads. We will either build a vehicle for a political revolution that brings our government back into the hands of working Americans, or our communities will deteriorate into civil conflict in which we will all lose. Luckily for America, the Green Party has been building the revolutionary political vehicle that can steer us through these difficult times to a peaceful, just, and sustainable future. Because the Green Party voluntarily refuses all corporate campaign donations. The Green Party, unlike any other, represents voters and communities as opposed to wealthy campaign contributors who have hoarded the wealth of our nation. Because the Green Party is the only volunteer-based political party in the United States, it is the only party made up of working people volunteering their time in an egalitarian movement to bring democracy to our country and rescue it from the plutocracy that it has succumbed to. That is why I humbly offer myself today to you, my neighbors, as a Green Party candidate to represent the Missouri Senate District 7 in Jefferson City. I, like all Green Party candidates, am a clean green candidate. I will not take the dirty money that corrupts all that it touches at the Capitol. That will make all the difference in who I will represent when I'm elected. I invite you to join the Green Party movement today, not only to elect me to the Missouri Senate, but to wrest our government from corporate hands and make our tax dollars work for working folks like us and our communities. They say that the Green Party is a spoiler. What we say is we cannot spoil what is already rotten. We must replace the rotten with the fresh green alternative of the Green Party, and I invite all of you to join us today. Thank you very much. On to victory.
Thank you, Nathan. Thank you very much. Next, we're going to hear from Paul Lehmann, who's from Columbia and is our candidate for Missouri Secretary of State.
Hello, everyone. I'm Paul Lehmann, and I'm running for Secretary of State on the Green Party ticket. I live on a small organic farm south of Fayette, Missouri, which is about 25 miles to 30 miles northwest of Columbia, Missouri. And I live in Howard County. I want to focus on the role of the Secretary of State in our electoral system. The Secretary of State has primary responsibilities for elections and voting and political campaigns and ethical standards associated with the electoral system. There are other actions that are included in that office, but I want to focus on the most relevant issue at this time. In doing some research, I found that in the U.S. Constitution adopted in 1789, the states were given control over the electoral system, and at that time, only 6% of the population was allowed to vote as white, male, land-owning citizens. Over the next 230 years, the right to vote was expanded after decades of trauma and struggle in a kind of chipping away at the obstacles to voting in order to achieve this fundamental right for all citizens. But there are still barriers to the exercise of the right to vote that I'd also like to address. As Secretary of State, I will push for a true democratic universal suffrage system for all citizens. What this means is that registration to vote would be a one-time act, one time only, for all citizens upon their 18th birthday or upon their naturalization as citizens. this would be done in the same manner as is done in being, as one is assigned a Social Security number at birth. Our addresses will be held in each county clerk's office where we reside, and at each election, the clerk would mail out a coded paper ballot to every citizen to be returned by election day and to be counted at that time. In this freed up system, there'd be no more registration requirements, no deadlines, no preemptive guidelines or provisions, no more absentee ballot excuses that one would have to make, no more expenses for polling places and ballot machines, no more pitched battles over who can and cannot vote. It's time that this corrupt system is ended, and that the evolution of the voting rights becomes complete. The mail-in ballot system is truly safe and secure and accessible to all citizens and truly democratic. We have several examples from other states such as Colorado, which have zero fraud as a result of the mail-in ballots. I want to say a little more about the suffrage for all citizens. This would include citizens who have been incarcerated for some reason. Because someone has committed a criminal offense does not mean that they lose their citizenship. So if you are a citizen, then you have a fundamental right to vote. So this would go away as well, this kind of obstacle to someone who has made a mistake in their life. Also, the new system would accommodate citizens with disabilities. I have just learned that that there are sighted people who have problems with the paper ballot. And so I would arrange to make exceptions for those who have disabilities so that they can vote in whatever means that is available to them. So there would be exceptions to the paper ballot that would be made to accommodate those who need them. And then finally, I want to comment on the latest Senate Bill 631 that was passed to accommodate the coronavirus. This is nothing more than another way to prevent people from voting. It's insane that you have to have your signature notarized in order to vote. It's insane that they have these deadlines before you can secure your ballot. So, and it's just, as I say, one more way for those people in power, both the Democrats and Republicans, to maintain that power by suppressing the vote and discouraging the marginal voters from voting. So this would be an important thing for us to achieve, and to give people the option from the two major parties and from the other parties as well, so that they may choose a system that would be friendly and safe for all people and would accommodate everyone's needs. Again, I'm Paul Lehmann. I'm running for Secretary of State from Howard County in Fayette, Missouri. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you, Paul. So next we are going to hear from Kelley Dragoo, candidate for Lieutenant Governor. Kelley lives in Kansas City.
Hi, everybody. My name is Kelley Dragoo, and I'm running for Missouri Lieutenant Governor. A little bit about me. I am an activist. I have been for about 12 years. I've lived in Kansas City for 7, but I've been a Missourian since I was 5. And now I really feel like it's time for me to step up and start serving the people of Missouri. So my first platform is Medicare for All. COVID has really poignantly crystallized our need for universal health care, and that it shouldn't be tied to employment. We all need to recognize that healthcare is a human right, I plan to do this on taxes on corporations, taxes on large businesses. If you want to set up shop in Missouri, in our state, then you need to prove that you're going to be able to care for our people. You need to show me that you are going to care for our people. This platform really ties into my next portion, which is workers' rights and labor's rights. People who sell their labor are valuable, are necessary. They are vital to the infrastructure of our state and of our nation and of our city. Their contribution is essential. That's why we call them in this pandemic essential workers. If you want your McDonald's, you need to care for these McDonald's workers. If you want to go to Hy-Vee, you need to care for the people who are helping make this happen. Healthcare is basic. Beyond that, we need to be providing these workers with benefits. We need pensions. We need retirement programming, either through matching or through just straight contributing. We need child care for these workers. We recently voted to raise the Missouri minimum wage to $12 in 2023, but that is minimum wage. We need to be providing workers, we need to be providing people who sell their labor with a thriving wage, benefited jobs. It's necessary to take care of our people as Missourians. And my last platform is really my big overarching platform because it's public transportation. Now, this is more than just building trains, okay? This is going to put Missourians to work. Public transportation has always been shown to increase job opportunity and to alleviate poverty, which are great things in and of themselves, but this is more than that. This is about creating jobs for everyone. This is about building green infrastructure in our state, building cleaner energy for our future. Through educational training and vocational training, you know, we have a lot of people who are involved in the gas, the oil, the coal fields, and what we need to do is teach these old dogs new tricks. I have the utmost faith in their ability to learn something new, to be engaging with what it looks like to work on solar energy, wind energy, hydro energy. We can teach people. It also engages young people because we can either, through two ways. It takes people out of college through researching and designing and analyzing this infrastructure. What's going to work best for Missouri, what's going to work in a different state may not work for us. It also gives vocational training for people right out of high school. We're going to teach them skills that are only going to become more marketable and valuable as we move forward into the future, because that's what this is. That's what it's about, being future focused. And that's what my campaign is about. My vision reinvigorates, it re-engages, and it transforms Missouri gently. It's not going to be an overnight process. It's one that we're going to have to work on slowly together. I want to speak a little bit about the lieutenant governorship position itself, because I do really feel like it's a vital, underutilized role in the executive branch. Basically, it's their job to preside over the legislature. So the lieutenant governor is the liaison between the executive branch and the legislative branch. It is vital that we learn to communicate effectively and efficiently moving forward to serve Missourians and make their lives better. And I feel like a lot of our problems right now stem from our inability to do that, to effectively bridge the gap between one branch to the other. And lastly, when I just think about this position, I just always say the Missouri motto, which is let the welfare of the people be the supreme law. And that's what I bring to this position, is that I'm going to listen to what the citizens want, and I'm going to do my darndest to give it to them. So I'm Kelley Dragoo, and I'm running for Lieutenant Governor. Please vote for me.
Thank you, Kelley. Thank you very much. Let's see. Next up is Jerome Bauer. I think he's phoned in. He is our candidate for governor, and he's from St. Louis.
Hi, I'm Jerome Bauer. I'm running for governor of Missouri. This is my 8th political campaign as a Green. I joined the Green Party in December 2012, but I've been in St. Louis since 1999. I lived in University City in St. Louis County from 1999 to 2005, over on the west end of the Loop Trolley. which is an issue that I'm very concerned with. And now I live in Skinker de Bolivar in St. Louis City from 2005 until present, near the southeastern terminus of the loop trolley. And I was very active in local politics and in workers' rights issues especially, and Occupy St. Louis before I joined the Green Party. And as I said, this is my 8th campaign as a Green. I ran first for comptroller in 2013, and most recently for president of the Board of Aldermen, and 1 out of 5 St. Louis City residents voted for me and my platform to end airport privatization, to stop the 4-city county merger, which was not undemocratic. It was a corporate power grab. And unfortunately, we haven't defeated that. It's coming back to haunt us again. Airport privatization, we thought we defeated that, but that's on the table again. It's resurrected. I was also against TIF gentrification, the loop trolley, that big boondoggle transportation project, that we really have to find a way to solve that problem. But that was partially funded by a TIF, tax increment financing. So I was against, I'm against TIF gentrification, against university neighborhood encroachment, and against universities abusing their tax-exempt privileges. And I'm for student and neighbor and worker-owned cooperatives, and I'm for workplace democracy, basically, I'm for liberty and justice for all. Now, I'm currently running for governor of Missouri on a platform with 3 major planks. Number 1, universal health care. We can do better than Medicaid expansion. Governor Parsons is against Medicaid expansion. Governor, the Democratic challenger, Nicole Galloway, judging by her State of the State address, at least her response to Governor Parsons' State of the State address, seems to be running a single-issue campaign based on Medicaid expansion. I signed the petition for Medicaid expansion. This is something that is very personal for me because I depend upon Medicaid as a disabled man with the Missouri Blind Pension and Medicaid to pay my health insurance. I don't know what I would do if I didn't have that. So I'm very, very passionate about that. But we can do better than that. We need universal health care. And my platform involves funding universal health care with a Wall Street transaction tax. And that is in the Missouri Green Party platform. It's in our economics platform, which is the very first plank that we passed when we were setting up our platform. So Medicaid expansion, not Medicaid expansion, but health care for all, that health care is a human right. Disability rights, that's very important to me because I'm almost blind now. And people keep asking me when they see one of my flyers, why isn't disability rights on there? Or if it is, why is it bullet point number 10? I keep forgetting to put disability rights on there, even though obviously as a disabled man, I really depend upon, a little help from my friends, more than a little help from my friends. And that's one thing that I've come to realize more than I ever did, is that how dependent we all are upon each other. I mean, maybe it takes going blind to really teach me that lesson, but I've most certainly learned it now. So, just fair deals for everybody, particularly the people who are in danger of falling through the safety net, as I have over the last 10 years. There were several times when I almost didn't make it. So disability rights, truth and independence. Our advocacy organization in St. Louis is called the Coalition for Truth in Independence. So it's not about asking for charity or asking for a handout. It's asking for and giving help in solidarity, mutual solidarity, a horizontal social relationship rather than vertical or patronizing. And transportation equity is my third platform plank. Transportation equity and accessibility. St. Louis Green Party has always favored North-South Metrolink expansion, the train system. I favor that so that we can affordably and accessibly transport our people to the poorest regions of our city. Also, bicycle paths, walking paths, schools that are located in the neighborhoods in which the students live, so that everybody should be able to walk to the school, the grocery store, the church if they go to church. You shouldn't really be forced to use up a lot of carbon just to live our daily lives. So transportation equity and accessibility. I mentioned the loop trolley, and this is a big issue in St. Louis right now because we, the people, paid for this boondoggle, $51 million, and it stopped running now because the city and the county government don't know what to do with it and don't want anything to do with it. So unless we can fork over $25 million, to get it running again, then we have to pay the whole thing back. And what are we going to do about that? Well, Kansas City has a trolley, rather like ours, not so much a practical transportation system, but it'll get you from here to there. And from what I've been told, I have never ridden it, but from what I've been told, it's always been free, and it works. So Kansas City is doing something right that we're doing wrong, and I'd like to find out more about that. And also, Kansas City, we in St. Louis are well aware that Kansas City is experimenting with free bus rides, free bus routes. So, why can't we have that in St. Louis too? There's no such thing as a free lunch. Somebody has to pay for it. So, everybody should pay their fair share of taxes. And universities, private universities, which receive a whole lot of tax breaks, they should pay their fair share, especially if they want to buy up a whole lot of local real estate and take it off the tax roll, so that we can't even fund our public schools. So this is an issue about which I'm very passionate, and so when I'm elected Missouri governor, that is what I would. That's what I would do. And I would keep an open mind and listen to everybody, especially the people who don't agree with me, because you really want to find out what everybody is thinking and how we can represent all the people, including the people who didn't vote for us, because to govern, we have to form a consensus and to help build a consensus.
Thank you, Jerome.
My time up? Okay, thank you.
Your time is up. Thank you so much. And I'm going to mute you, but I'll unmute you when the Q&A starts again.
Okay. Thank you, Jerome. Our final candidate that we're going to hear from today is Antwan Winters, running for the U.S. House of Representatives in Missouri's 5th District, representing the Kansas City area. And it should be noted that Antwan is a write-in candidate.
Thanks for the introduction. How's everybody doing? My name is Antwan Winters. I'm running for the 5th District in Missouri, United States Congress. I'm the oldest out of 11 children, so I know a little bit about being responsible for others. I went to school at Van Horn, and after graduating from Van Horn High School, I took up electrical engineering. So I have an affinity towards math and science. Those are what I'd use if elected to engineer solutions to our current predicaments. You know, they say insanity is trying the same thing over and over again, expecting different results. Well, I've seen the people in my neighborhood and the urban core do that such thing, and they've been deceived by tokenism and pacified by incrementalism, things that don't help us in our overall mission of achieving equality. And that's what brought me to the Green Party as a candidate. I've been called to serve. I want to represent people that don't have a voice. I want to stand up to the status quo with the voices of the future, because I believe it's my generation's time to take responsibility and stewardship in this government that my children will inherit one day. I'm running for federal office, but I do intend to influence county politics. I propose the reallocation of police department funds into the community. And if elected to federal office, I will continue to pressure my city council members and my constituents so they can know who to hold the fire to. One of my other proposals that I propose is starting up co-ops in Jackson County. First, providing subsidies at the federal level for homeowners to buy components for solar, wind, or hydraulic energy production. And I propose to let neighborhoods build out electrical co-ops, and they could sell their excess energy to larger corporations. That's one of the proposals I have. And another thing that's close to me is housing. And all of these initiatives, we have a federal counterpart. Most of these things we do need a close. But yes, housing is another thing close to me. And I want to open up homeless shelters in Jackson County through homesteading, through the Home Land Bank of Jackson County, Missouri. And thanks for your time. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Antwan. It's great to hear from you. So now we're moving into our Q&A. So if you have any questions that you have not already submitted to the chat, please do so. And please, as we said before, indicate the candidate that you would like to speak to, answer your question. And I think Sue is going to be passing the questions to me for reading, and then I will call on the candidates, and Chris is going to time the responses.
Okay, Barb, I sent you the first one.
Now, how do I do this?
Oh, in the chat, or would you rather just have me ask them?
Oh, I'm sorry. So you just sent me the questions and I go through them?
I'll send them to you one at a time.
Either way is fine. I just didn't understand the process. Okay, I'll go ahead. So the first question, if I miss any, is actually from me to Vicke. And I'm wondering, Vicke, I'm asking you because you live in a part of Missouri where CAFOs are a big issue. Of course, it's a big issue for all of us. Contain concentrated animal feeding operations, and they're growing in our state. I just heard another one's going to be sited in Trenton, Missouri. I wonder if you had any thoughts about how to deal with this, because it is an environmental and animal welfare nightmare, really.
Can you hear me?
Yes.
Okay. SB 391, as we know, passed in 2019 or 18. Anyway, it's something that I've worked really hard for or against. I went to Jefferson City And I went lobbying with the Missouri Rural Crisis Center one day. I stayed overnight. I went back with the Sierra Club the next day, fighting the same issue. I think one thing that we need to really work on is the rhetoric. Instead of CAFOs, which people are like, what does that mean? Factory farms. We know that 50,000 acres of Missouri farmland is owned by Chinese companies. That's one thing. And here's another thing. I went to a watershed committee meeting, and now Smithfield Foods is working with this company, and they're wanting American taxpayers to pay for like the collection of the methane from these ponds, from these CAFOs. I will be there. If I get to the state level, I will fight so hard against factory farms and for family farms. But we also have to look at this on all levels. So that's the state level, but we as individuals too, we must reduce our consumption of CAFO meat. So that's something that I do on a personal level. I'm not perfect at it. But if we say we don't want CAFOs here in Missouri, what are we really saying? We're just saying we want them somewhere else. So I think that we have to support our family farms and work against the factory farms and really raise awareness to the public too.
Thank you very much. And Sue, let me know if I missed any questions here. Here's a question from Chris McMahon.
Hey, Barb, I just sent you like the top 7 questions just in the most recent chat. So that way you don't have to try to scroll back through them all.
Oh, okay. Let's see. So Chris Mann, to all the candidates, are you in favor of defunding the police departments in Missouri? And what does that mean? So she didn't say anyone in particular.
I think we can let the individual candidates unmute themselves as they want to answer.
Yeah, it looked like Antwan wanted to participate.
Well, what that consists of is not really defunding. Defunding gives somebody the idea that we want to abolish the department in whole, and that it was, and that's what people think. You know, it's a word game, but it's not defunding the police department in whole. It's reallocation of funds, and not just from the police department, but from other public safety sources. Like we just had a 14% sales tax increase voted for so we could pay for fire departments, and no one's rolling around in rusty fire trucks. So it's really reallocation. It's reallocation, and in most cities, the police departments, they take up a gross amount of funds. And in turn, there's only like in Kansas City, 5.6% of our budget goes towards the community and housing, and 65% goes towards public safety. Now, anybody would ask, well, with all that money going to public safety, what are they protecting if they're only putting 5.6% in the community? So me, myself, yes, at the federal level, I will be for demilitarization of the police. That means no transfer of military equipment of any kind, and I will be against any kind of military equipment on American streets. And I'm also for the reallocation of funds from the police department and other public safety into the community.
Hey.
Hi.
Go ahead, Betsy.
Hi. Okay. Yes, I am in favor of defunding, but I think it's like Antwan said, when you say defund, a lot of people take that word and they think, wow, does that mean we're going to stop giving money to the police departments? No. But what I'm in favor of is the defunding, but taking that and putting it into programs within that, in the communities for youth, seniors, taking some of those funds that they get and distributing it and allocating it to other places that it can serve. Okay, thank you.
Yeah, I definitely just want to mirror exactly what they're saying. I am very for defunding the police. We, on a national, state, and local level, use way too much capital, way too much money on the police department, militarizing the police department. As a queer woman, as a queer and as a woman, I have never felt served nor protected by the police. And we're basically just giving them free reign to murder people, and they're really using that pretty aggressively, especially right now. We have to stop it, and we have to do that the only way that, with the only language that they know, which is by taking money away from them and again putting it into those community-based resources. So much of the police person's job can be done by someone else who is better trained to handle those situations. So absolutely very for defunding the police, and Black Lives Matter.
Can I add just a couple of additional thoughts in addition to certainly agree with the sentiment of all the candidates before me. Crime, the police don't prevent crime. The police are a reactionary, they react to crime even in best case scenario, and I don't think we're seeing the best case scenario for policing. So we can act, to prevent crime, what do we need to do? We need to make our society have a lot fewer or even zero desperate people, okay? How do we do that? The police don't do that. We have to attack poverty, right? And lack of resources that people need to be successful in their lives. Ultimately, that ends up being cheaper than the reactionary, putting, we're the most locked up people in the history of the planet, right? And that is, I don't think what most Americans want. Certainly not what I want. I haven't bumped into anybody that think that's a good thing. So we need to shift the funding from a reactionary stance to a proactive, poverty reduction and elimination. And then the police, you will need very few police. We can be like Sweden and England, where the police walk around without guns, which is, and they're just basically conflict resolution professionals, right? That just kind of help people work out problems. And that's where we need to get to. And ultimately that's going to be good for people that call themselves police men and women, because their jobs are going to be much more pleasant as well, right? That's kind of my 2 cents on it.
Anybody else? All
Yeah.
right.
I'm trying to figure, I think you can hear me. Ultimately, I do believe in defunding the police, but I did work locally for our police department to have body cameras. We had worked on that back in after 2014 with the Michael Brown and Ferguson situation. We had asked for our police department to have body cameras, and they did not approve that request. So I feel some kind of like I'm speaking out of 2 sides of my mouth, because I do want to defund the police, but I do believe that our police officers here locally did need body cameras. I hope that will lead to greater civility. But right now we have police departments that are abusing and murdering, and they are there to protect and serve. And so it's not working. So we need to look at a different paradigm.
Giving cameras to officers. And another proposal I have, because other than violent crime and murder, is property crime. So instead of putting cameras on officers, why don't we give people in high crime areas a free Ring doorbell or a free camera to go in their home? I think that'll be a lot more effective with deterring crime than putting a camera on a cop.
Anybody else want to speak to this question? If not, Here's another question to everyone. How are we going to pay for reforms and programs that we Greens advocate, such as Medicare for all?
Nice and easy. Tax the rich. There's more than enough money to go around. Let's take the money and put it where it needs to be going, which is not in some rich tycoon's bank account. Sorry, it's not doing anybody any good there. Tax the rich.
I agree with you.
Yeah, I'd like to, I think that other than taxing the rich, I think we should tax what people hold, because what we are going through, and like Nathan alluded to, we have people hoarding wealth. We have people hoarding things. So instead of taxing a person on how much they make a year, let's start taxing assets. So rich people put that money back into the economy to make it work. That's why we have this stagnation, because we have this hoarding mentality of the rich. So instead of taxing people based off of what they make every year, we tax people off of what they try to hoard every year.
Well, another point on this is the military budget continues to be in the trillions. And it's not making people any safer. So another way to defund something that's useless is to get rid of the over 1,000 military bases around the world. And planes, they rust in fields. Nuclear weapons are being produced right at the Honeywell plant. They don't produce the weapons, but they produce the triggers for all the nuclear weapons. We're not in a Cold War, and yet the production of nuclear weapons rises. And the longer we have these weapons, the more likely they're going to be used. So that's why the Green Party totally favors taking money from the militarization of the world, really.
I'd like to add another dimension to this. Where do we get the money from? This is Paul Lehmann. Am I on? Okay. I'm not showing up on the main screen. Well, I'll keep speaking.
We can hear you.
I'm retired and I get Medicare, and but I pay for that. I've paid for that my whole life through taxes, and so I have put my amount in. But then even after that, then they take out $115 or something a month out of my Social Security check to pay for that insurance, and so that would be part of the picture. That and the selling point is that businesses would not have to pay for insurance for their employees, but they would pay extra to their employees so that their employees can pay their share, a small amount. And so $125 a month is pretty cheap insurance for the coverage that we get. And by that bulk, adding that all together, then we can provide insurance for everyone. So that's another dimension that, as I say, needs to be included in the answer to that question.
Okay.
Can I just add another short little piece? Our society, the United States of America, for better or worse, is by far the richest society in the history of the world. All right, societies with much less money per person, you know, have, you know, dozens of them have, you know, higher, better measurables on all social indicators. Now, the United States used to be the leader in almost all social indicators in the world. And that was back in like the 50s and 60s, when we had a good Republican tax rate of the top marginal tax rate of 91%. That was the good Eisenhower-Nixon tax rate, okay? That's how far, you know, the sold out Democrats and Republicans have taken us to, at this point, the richest billionaires not only don't even pay taxes, we pay them subsidies in tax returns. So, you know, if we think everything is hunky-dory, keep voting for Democrats and Republicans. If you don't, you got one choice, and that's the Greens, and we'll fix it.
Okay. Let's see. I like this question, or I'll just editorialize a little bit here. The question is, what makes you hopeful that changes are possible? This goes to all candidates. This is a time fraught with all sorts of difficulties, but I also think it's a real opportunity for change. You know, when I was thinking about health insurance, it's becoming obvious we have to do something else about health insurance, because all these people that now don't have jobs and their health insurance is tied to their jobs. So it's becoming more and more clear that you know, the problems we have. So anyway, I'm gonna send the question on to the candidates. What makes you hopeful that changes are possible? And this is to all candidates.
Okay. What gives me hope for the future? Well, people are looking up, you know. I mean, people are looking up now. I mean, the status quo, the people that are in power, how they stayed in power so long is because they kept us in a rat race. But, you know, now their arrogance and through them hoarding all the resources, people have no choice but to look at who's doing this. And people are not gonna stop. People are not gonna stop looking at who's doing the taking, who's corrupt. And that's what gives me hope, because people are looking up. And the youth today remind me of what I see of the 70s movement, of how the youth came out in mass and protest, and, you know, willing to sacrifice their lives to, you know, to make the world a better place for everybody. And that's what I'm seeing again now, you know, and it gives me hope, you know, especially because these people are young, so they're going to be around for a while. And all those things give me hope. Thank you.
All right, I'm going to unmute Jerome since he doesn't have the ability to do it himself. Jerome, did you want to respond to the Q&As?
Yes. Who won the Cold War? Everybody lost. We all got the worst of both worlds. So, you know, if we won the Cold War, if the Cold War is over, where then is our peace dividend? And I think people are beginning to realize that we're just spending too much money on the military, on the militarization of our police, and we're turning a whole country into a police state, and that has to stop. And the reaction to the George Floyd murder, and also the fact that people are realizing that we don't even have competent. Well, we don't have a competent president, but we don't have an organized public health system. So, you know, people are finally getting out on the street, and they're protesting with in a disciplined way, keeping physical distance from each other, and you know, really, I think that it's time for a change, and people are realizing that. So I'm an optimist. I heard somebody say recently that both optimists and pessimists, that's a type of fatalism. I don't agree with that at all. Margaret Mead said that nobody should ever underestimate the ability of one person or a small group to change the world. Indeed, that's the only thing that ever has. So that's optimism. That's when we take responsibility and as individuals and then as a collective and you know, even if it's just a small group at first, then you know, when we express ourselves, then our ideas will catch on and we can make a difference. And that's why I'm an optimist, and that's why I'm in the Green Party, because the Green Party is the party of optimists, not fatalists, but people who are taking responsibility in a constructive way, and not just saying no, no, no to everything, but yes, 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 we can create a better future. And we have a lot of really good ideas, and we'll listen to everybody's good ideas, and we can make a difference. One other thing, I don't know how many FTP marches I've been to. I don't mean file transfer protocol. I mean F the police, and I don't like that awful F word, but defund the police is a de-escalation from that, as a rhetorical de-escalation from that. And people are beginning to realize that defund the police, well, it means demilitarize the police, and that's good, but it also means revision the police, revision public safety and public health and public everything. And so, I mean, there's a lot of creative discussion about what that would actually mean. And you just look at examples of police forces that have been defunded. For example, Camden, New Jersey, across the river from Philadelphia, where I used to live, they've had their police force defunded, and now, you know, it's being reorganized and actually represented by the very same union that represented them before. And they're doing a good job of representing the union's interests, but it's not the same police force that it had been before. So that is, you know, defund the police. That means we can do it better. Now,
thank you, Jerome. You've hit your time limit. I'm going to leave you unmuted, so when the next question comes around, you can participate. And
thank you.
Daniel is next.
Okay, you know, do we have hope? I mean, what's the alternative? I mean, this is a thing about survival. Yeah, we're engaged in a thing about survival, and what's the alternative of having hope? Destruction? Well, yeah, it might be down the path, but I do have hope, because I do believe that in survival, and that it will come about and will happen. I have another question, but I guess I'll type it out.
Okay, are we ready for the next question, Sue? Okay. Oh, were you going to speak, Kelly? I'm sorry.
It's all right.
No.
Yeah, I wanted to say what makes me hopeful that changes are possible. I think really right now we're at a very specific point in our country that voices of the minority is finally being heard, are finally being heard and are being taken intentionally. And I think that what makes me most hopeful is that different voices from different types of lives just automatically bring change. And that's something that I think the country and our state is really leaning into right now. We're really kind of looking for options and not answers now more than ever. And so we're having all of these diverse voices being put into the light. And so I think everybody is just ready for new avenues and new paths for us to move as a country and as a state.
Okay, I have a question for Paul. Paul, do you have a plan about how to send paper ballots to those who may be homeless or do not have a fixed address?
That's a very good question. Offhand, I don't have one, but I certainly have. I'm open to that, so if anyone has ideas on how that can be done, that would I'd be glad to incorporate that into my my platform.
Okay, where are we? This is a question for all the candidates. How are the candidates responding to the question when someone asks them why they are taking away Democratic votes during this incredibly important election year? That's an old question that we've been asked for many years.
And Barb, this is Betsy. I was I was at the beauty salon yesterday, and I was asked. They said, "Well, you know, are you running for St. Louis County Executive with the Green Party? Do you know you're going to open up the doors for a Republican to get into St. Louis County?" And my answer to that was, well, it's time for change. And if people don't see, why do we keep running back into a burning building? And she said, I don't understand what you mean by that. I said, just what I said. We've been doing the same thing over and over again. We vote on this person and we say, well, they're going to do okay. Then they don't. Then they send another person in that does the same thing or maybe even worse. And then it's just a revolving door. So my thing is that it's got to come to a time where people are going to have to see that it's time to change, because we keep doing the same thing over and over again and we're getting the same results. It's insanity. So that's my take on it.
Yeah, all of us who've run as a Green, and this is my 8th campaign, so I should know, but we always get that quite a lot. We're treated by Democrats as if we're their heretics, and they have to bring us back in line. But I know for a fact that many people who voted for me and who've endorsed me are, in fact, Republicans. So I can make a case. We can make a case that that we're taking away, quote unquote, at least as many votes or maybe more from Republicans as we are from Democrats. In this election, I think the Ralph Nader effect, as I call it, will be especially strong. But you know, that's okay. We just have to stand up for what we're standing for and work together as a team to build an alternative grassroots party for the future. In St. Louis City, at least, we, the Green Party, are not a third party. We're the second party, arguably, because we're better organized than the Republican Party. And many of our Democrats in some other city would be Republicans because they're representing corporate interests, and many of our Republicans in some other city would be Democrats, but they joined the Republican Party because they didn't want to deal with the local Democratic Party establishment. And I know some of them, and I know that for a fact. So, and some of them are my students, and we've discussed it. So you can't make assumptions about people. Most people who are in public service, certainly at the local level, are in it for the right reasons. Most people who get into local government do so because they really care about the community, and party affiliation is really pretty much arbitrary. So just don't make assumptions about people, don't make judgments, and keep an open mind, and never take any voter for granted, and never write any voter off, because you don't really know how someone is going to vote. People will vote their interest, or they may vote for you if they just think that you're an honorable person who will really listen to what the people who we're running to represent, want us to do. And if they think we're of good character, then we may get votes from unexpected quarters. And this has been my experience. This will be my 8th campaign, and that's that. This has been my experience.
And I would say that this is an excellent argument for promoting ranked choice voting. try to give people a little education about it. And the whole state of Maine has undertaken it. And this is a real answer to what these people's concerns are.
I just want to chime in that you know, to me, the Democrats and Republicans being completely, you know, sold out to the corporate interests are basically one party. So, you know, and most people realize this. They may feel it more than even know it, because most people, most registered voters or eligible voters do not vote in this country, because they know that voting between a Democrat and Republican will make no difference, significant difference in their lives. You know, the Democratic Party, you know, has been, been passing around, basically this disease called Trump derangement syndrome, in which Trump is the cause of all these problems. Trump is the cause of none of our problems. Trump is a symptom. He's an ugly, cancerous symptom of our problems, but he's not the cause of any of our problems. But if someone has been convinced that Trump is devil incarnate, vote against Trump, but vote for Greens down the ballot. We're not actually going for Democratic or Republican voters primarily, although we're certainly want them to vote for us. We're going for the vast majority of Americans that have given up on politics because they think it is a completely corrupted enterprise. And the Green Party is bringing politics and democracy back to America. And that's our role. We have no responsibility to help the Democratic Party, which is not helping us.
Paul Lehmann here. I would want to add to that when the question is raised or a statement is made that we're taking votes away from the Democrats, the response may be also one of the responses is, so who are we really taking votes away from? We're not taking votes from anyone. We're providing an alternative that is not being addressed in the two major parties. And so we're here to provide that. I've had a running battle debate with a group that I'm part of here in Howard County called the Howard County Progressives, and they claim to be progressives, but they're anything but that. And so when push comes to shove, they always vote Democratic. So they have challenged me when I raise this issue continually about voting for the Green Party. And so I did a study of the election in 2016, where they claimed that Jill Stein stole the votes away from Hillary Clinton. And when you add up the votes, the statistics do not add up. And she had, as we know, Hillary Clinton beat herself, and they try to blame the Greens for that. But when you look at the actual votes, that was so small that it was insignificant. And so if you threw all the votes of the Green Party into the Democrats, you'd also have to throw all of the constitutionalists and the what's the other party that you have to throw them into the Republicans. And those numbers are far greater than the numbers given to the Green Party. So that argument is just, it's fake. It's fake argument and useless. So I encourage people, in my case here, is that if you, I encourage people to vote for the Green Party Secretary of State candidate, because if you like the idea of freedom from the oppression that we have in our voting system, then vote for the Green Party. And because the other two, the major candidates, there's not going to be a lot of difference between the way they run the Secretary of State's office.
It's gotten really nasty in my area. because the district I am is pretty tight with numbers. And 2 days ago, I went through a Sonic drive-through after doing lit drops with my son, and a gentleman came up to my window, knocked on my window. I rolled it down, and I thought he wanted to say hi or something, but he handed me a nasty note. And he's like, the only thing you're going to do is get Steve Helms reelected. And the good thing is I have stopped reacting with anger, because there's nothing that I could have said to this gentleman that would have changed his mind at that moment. But what gives me hope, going back to the last question, is when I do go door to door and I talk to people, they see the way we see. They see that the two-party system is not a solution, and that we do need choices. And so, and I'm glad for those people, because if we just listen to Democrats, then it's very negative. Plus, I announced my race a year before my Democratic opponent, and so I tell people she's taking votes away from me. But yeah, it's hard, but at the same time, the current situation's broken. We have two sides that can consistently attack each other, name call, everything, and they do not act professionally. That is not the way to work in government. So that's my 2 cents.
All right. This is sort of a related question to all. What got you interested in politics, and why did you decide to join the Green Party and run as a Green Party candidate? You may have already covered that. Okay.
I'm sorry, I missed the last. I'm sorry, I missed the last question.
Oh, okay. I said we may have already covered this. It says it's the second part of the same question. What got you interested in politics, and why did you decide to join the Green Party and run as a Green Party candidate?
Okay, yeah, I've touched on that in my intro. But insanity again, insanity. Seeing the urban core and seeing blue collar workers and working class people vote against their own interests. That's what brought me to the Green Party, and that's what got me involved in politics. Trying to secure a future, secure a just government for my children and their grandchildren. And I know the Green Party is the only way to go with that.
And somebody else want to respond?
Yeah, I was gonna say, so what brought me to the Green Party was that it's both a political and activist organization. I've always considered myself an activist and a civil servant. I'm not a politician, and I'm not interested in that life. But I do believe in service, in an effort to create something for the greater good. And the Green Party affords me a base of operations to just go out into the community. And that is definitely what brought me to the Green Party, because they're both activist and political. It's a great place to be.
Yep. Saving our planet is neither left nor right. It's common sense. If we destroy our planet, where do we go? There's no planet B. There's no, we can't go live on Mars or the moon, really. So we have to save our planet so that we all can live here. So it's common sense.
Very specifically, I was attracted to the Green Party by the first Clinton administration. I, like many of my country folk, believed in this lesser of two evils. We almost all of us are convinced that both of them are no good. Whoever they are, we haven't had a good one for who knows when. So I said, well, I don't like this Clinton guy at all, but this Bush guy is slightly worse, so let me vote for this Clinton guy. And then he gets in office and he immediately passes everything Bush was wanting to do, but couldn't, because the Democrats stood in the way, just because they were like, it was not their thing. Deregulate Wall Street, deregulate the telecommunications industry, throw everybody in jail, You know, I could go on and on with the nightmare that the first Clinton administration was for Americans, and how great it was for the rich, so the argument that Democrats in office are better than Republicans, I mean, what did Obama do? He expanded Bush's wars. He made his tax cut permanent. The only major legislative achievement, was Obamacare, which was cooked up at the Heritage Foundation as a way to head off universal health care in this country. So, I have, it doesn't make any sense at all to me. So that's what, the Green Party is the only game in town if you're looking for a real democratic movement.
To me, it's the only progressive party too. We have a Democratic Party that is not working for the American interest. The majority of Americans want Medicare for all. They want all of these progressive stances, but the Democrats are not even pushing for them, a Green New Deal. So I'm so thankful that there is a party that truly stands on progressive stances.
And I feel that the Green Party supports the social justice platform, which is a platform that it's our conscience. And if we don't support that and believe in social justice, environmental justice, health justice, then what?
Okay. This is a question for Vicke, which you talked kind of about the negative side, but I'm sure there's more going on than that. How is the response with people as you campaign for the Green Party in Springfield?
It's actually pretty good. I am working really hard, so I'm going out every day, and I find out that when I talk to regular people, it's not what I see on social media. What we see on social media is people just attacking. But when I go door to door and I tell them that my big thing is protecting the environment and protecting our rivers and our drinking water, that goes across all the party lines. Of course, I've had people call me Republicans saying you're a communist, and I've had Democrats call me and, you're going to ruin the vote. But we know that, like Nathan said, about 40% of the center is where we need to really focus, because those are people that common sense makes a difference. And so I don't know how it's all going to pan out, but I believe in that thing called critical mass. I just keep going out there and I just keep doing everything. And people know me. So there's all these things going on. For example, yesterday in the newspaper, they posted all of the candidates and failed to include me. Yes. It's, and I don't know, it could have just been an accident.
No, it was no accident.
And so people are seeing this. Again, I've been involved for 20 years, so people know me. And they know why I'm running as a Green. And if they don't, I tell them, what do you want? Do you want Medicare for all? Where do you stand on this? So I'm not sure how it's all going to pan out, but all I can believe is if I work hard enough and do all the things, that maybe I just might have a chance.
Very good. Let's see, here's a question from Daniel to himself and everyone. He said, I'd like to respond to the question, how are we going to engage the disenfranchised?
Yeah, this is a quote from Noam Chomsky. Okay. Roughly, the bottom 70% of the population and income level has no influence on policy. They're disenfranchised. So it doesn't matter what they think. Political leaders don't pay any attention to them. You go up the scale, people have more influence. You get to the real top, the 0.1%. They're basically designing the policies. So of course they get what they want. You can't call this democracy. The 70% doesn't need to read scholarly studies. They just know it doesn't matter what they think. They don't pay any attention to us, they figure, which is correct. You can't enter the political system unless you're vetted by concentrations of private capital. If you can't raise hundreds of millions of dollars, you're out. How are we going to disengage? How are we going to engage all these people that have that kind of feeling, the disenfranchised?
Paul Lehmann here. I've, in my platform, one of the part of the answer, and it's not complete, but part of the answer is to eliminate all the obstacles to voting, so that everybody will get a ballot in the mail, every citizen, and so they don't have to do anything. They don't have to go out and make an effort. All they have to do is just mark the ballot and send it in. That has increased the voter participation in Colorado, Oregon, Washington, wherever those states are, and so that has to be coupled with. I had some thoughts about, as Nathan wrote here, about the homeless and those who are truly disenfranchised. They don't have a residence. Is that we need to address that issue in itself and minimize the number of homeless. And then in thinking here, I would design a program to reach out and hand deliver ballots to those people who are out on the streets.
Okay. Sorry, I just took a bite of apple. I think these are our last two questions for all. What is the stance on universal basic income based on poverty level? And then the second question will be about climate change, but let's just take one at a time. What is your stance on universal basic income based on poverty level?
Hi, this is Antwan Winters. Sorry, everybody. I'm having technical difficulties with my camera, but I have a pro stance on a universal basic income. And for anybody that's not familiar with it, it's based off the U.S. poverty level, which says that anyone making less than $12,000 a year is in poverty. And what a universal basic income would do, regardless of work or without any means testing, a non-means tested UBI, which means everyone gets $1,000 a month, and that will equal up to $12,000 a year, which is the poverty level. So a universal basic income would ensure that no American citizen would drop below poverty level. And I am for that. And I'm also for a non-means tested universal basic income, which means that everyone gets it regardless of wage or regardless if they're working or not. And with the last question, I'd like to add a little bit to the Green Party and taking votes away from other people and other parties. If you have a game, a sport, and the other team doesn't show up and the team wins by default, that doesn't mean they're any good. So I don't see myself taking votes from the Democratic Party because they've been winning by default for I don't know how long, and they're just winning by default. So I'm not taking votes from anyone. They haven't proved themselves.
Anyone else want to speak to universal basic income?
Yep. I've been asked that question as I handed out flyers on the Delma loop. soon to be renamed the George Floyd Divide. But anyway, I've been asked that question, and I have to tell people that while the Missouri Green Party, the last time I checked, was neutral on the issue, our candidates can support it or not, the jury's still out on that, and some people say that this will lead to too many bad street musicians, but that's a chance I'll take because I'm in favor of it in general. And I'm also in favor of student loan debt forgiveness and free public education for everybody. But when I say this, especially my Republican voters and supporters will tell me that, well, we like that idea too, but you know, there ain't no such thing as a free lunch. And there's the moral hazard question. You know, if people don't take, if people think they're getting something for free, they don't value it. And, you know, that argument does actually have merit. So what I would do, and this is something that I've heard floated in Green Party circles, that universal service, not military service, but something like the Works Project Administration. Sometime in your life, you do a year or 2 or 3 of you know, building roads and you know, fixing potholes and just whatever needs to be done. And it would be a great way to interact with other people, get new experiences, meet new friends, and this is actually was once considered a conservative idea. General Dwight Eisenhower, President Dwight Eisenhower, proposed it, and it was touted in, for example, the Reader's Digest. So this is something that perhaps you know, we could offer as a way of presenting this idea to you know, to a general audience, to you know, to make it acceptable, and because I think it's a good idea in principle. But anyway, you know, I'll listen to everybody who wants to give me their opinion on universal basic income, because the jury is perhaps still not out on that, but I think it's a good idea in general, and I'm philosophically in favor of it.
Go ahead, Paul.
I wanted to comment on the free free education for college education, and that would also mean free education for trades as well. This would be a system unlike the public education where you are forced to go, you must go, or you will be penalized. This is it's like a scholarship, and I think we might think about using that as an argument. It's a scholarship offered to all post-high school students that if they choose to take advantage of it, then they will pay back to society once they have completed their education. So it's not a pay-as-you-go thing. It's a pay-it-forward type of enterprise. So I just had that thought. Thought it was interesting. And as far as the basic basic amount of money that's given to everyone, I think that's a good idea, that we should do that, and so at least everyone has a floor from which they can operate.
And Antwan Winters again, everybody. And I'd like to add for that, because people wonder what the justification of that was. We have multiple corporations making money off of our personal data. That is one justification for it. We have multiple corporations hoarding land that could be used to house the homeless, land that could be used to farm, land that individuals could be used to empower themselves. Those are the justifications for a universal basic income. It's also a reallocation of funds. Every man is entitled to enough land that they can live on. This isn't the purpose now. This has been happening. Land has been hoarded. Land has been hoarded. Resources have been hoarded. Fossil fuels have been hoarded. That's why we need a universal basic income. It's an equalizer. It's an equalizer because men have been corrupted and they have hoarded more than they need. And those are the justifications for a universal basic income.
I also see us as kind of a monopoly game that is at the end. We have the extreme wealthy that have all the money, and then people don't have money for the rent. And so we have this huge disparity of wealth and income. We're going to have to do something to keep the game going. Now, whether that be UBI or whether that be like, a very strong social net, either way would be great, or fine, as long as we make sure that people's basic needs are taken care of. So I would be for a universal basic income as long as we can make sure that people are taken care of.
Can I just throw in real quick? This is Nathan Kline. I think UBI is an important component of a bigger issue, and that is the climate crisis. We have significantly overshot the human species, the carrying capacity of the earth. So we must, our economy is going to, in the coming decades, degrow. Either we will voluntarily degrow it by basically outlawing lots of unnecessary activity and focusing on the necessary things that meet all of our neighbors' needs, or our civilization will start to unravel. And Somalia is going to be a best case scenario, and there won't be anything for anybody. Everybody's going to be desperate. So basically, there's not enough capitalist work to be done, right? We need to stop doing so many things. So if we're going to do that, we're going to have to de-link, the basic provisions of life from employment. That doesn't, I think that there's an idea that, if there's not some overseer with a job, that we're just a bunch of lazy, no good people. I'm actually much more optimistic about humans and think that if we give people freedom and enough resources, that they're going to flower, not turn into couch potatoes. Okay, we're couch potatoes because we get home from work and we're destroyed by our jobs and we got nothing left but melting into the couch. If we weren't, engaged in this unnecessary and ultimately killing work, it's destroying the whole planet, then we will flower. And that's what we need. And so UBI is a part of that. It definitely has to be implemented, but it has to be done right.
Okay, so Nathan, that was a good segue into probably our last question here. If elected, this is big, how will you address climate change? And that's to everyone.
Maybe I'll just jump right in. And I think that what we have to do, the government of the people needs to step back up and regulate the market. Both the Democrats and Republicans have drunk this poison called free market capitalism, okay? That the market will regulate itself and it will lead to the best of all possible worlds. It's actually leading to mass extinction event, okay? That's what it's leading to, okay? So it's time that we have leaders, and only Green Party leaders will do this, that will go and regulate the market and say, no, we're not going to give an incentive for you not to burn fossil fuels. We're going to outlaw the burning of fossil fuels. And then we're going to figure out how to live, okay? We have to step up. Our government, our democratic government, and this is our last chance. The argument between the global climate scientists, and these are thousands of PhDs in dozens of fields that all agree, almost all of them agree, unprecedented level of agreement, that their argument now between them is whether it's too late or not to save ourselves. Okay, so right now we have to step up, take power, and regulate the market.
I want to speak to this because climate change is one of the big things that brought me to the Greens. First and foremost, carbon tax. Hit them where it hurts, in their pocketbook. If you want to continue burning fossil fuels, then you need to pay, and you need to pay hefty, okay? Transitioning to renewable resources is going to take, you know, cooperation between both the public and the private sector, but the public sector needs to be spearheading this. It is our job as Greens, as elected officials, to be coordinating this and to be giving the grants, basically giving the taxpayers' dollars to companies who are going to further these things. The infrastructure and the know-how, is already there. So we just need to rely on the cooperative efforts of both private and public sector to get us where we need to go. And tax, carbon, output, boom.
Yeah, just basically the people who are causing the pollution, they expect others to pay for the cleanup of that pollution. Well, that's not feasible. It's not right. And we have to really enact laws to hold these people, these polluters, responsible for cleaning up the result of all this waste. I mean, that's more than important. It's essential. It's a thing of survival.
I just read at the bottom of my list here that we're supposed to end at 4 o'clock. I'm sorry, I wasn't doing a good job. Did anyone want to say anything more about climate in 3 minutes?
Yes.
Yeah. I just want to say I agree with what everybody else has said about global warming. Reduce, reuse, recycle. Reuse and recycle, we're kind of doing that, but what about reduction? We just have to stop, consuming so much and cut back. And there's no technological magic bullet that's going to get us out of this. We can't geoengineer our way out of it. We have to learn to live on the earth. So, yeah, peace, people, and planet over profits.
I'd like to, I'd like to add, if I may, this Paul Lehmann, reduce, as Jerome just said, reduce consumption, stop subsidies to fossil fuel industry, and that can be done on the state level. Develop a tree planting plan, which some Republicans are excited about, and to initiate that and encourage people, schools, everyone in the country to plant trees. And I think it's a real key issue that I know Don Fitz has issued, is to reduce consumption, and also make all kinds of building requirements, stop cutting trees down in order to build houses. Every house should be green friendly. It's just a whole host of little things that can be done to move us away from the precipice that we're upon.
Amen.
I think it is now 3:59. I think this has been a great program. I appreciated hearing from all the candidates. I don't know if we're going to do this again before the election, but I want to thank everybody that participated. I thought I heard some great ideas today. And with that, I don't know, Sue, is there anything else we need to do or say?
I just have one announcement. In July, from July 9th through July 12th, is the U.S. Green Party National Conference they hold every year. And on Saturday, the 11th, is our presidential nominating convention. We'll be sending out some information soon about how you can watch. We already have elected at our mini convention last week who is going to be our delegates who can cast votes at the convention, but it's open for people to watch, and we'll send you information on how to do that.
I just wanted to say thanks to the moderators and organizers. Thank you, everybody, for putting this together. This was wonderful.
And thank you. We did record, and we'll be editing to probably make it into shorter clips, maybe specific per candidate, whatever. So be on the lookout for that coming up pretty soon.
Thank you, everyone. Goodbye.
All right. Bye-bye.
Thank you to everybody for participating.
Later.
Bye.
Bye, everybody.
Bye.